Hey guys, Justin here from Reaction Brewing. You might hear a little noise in the background. Sam's over there killing it on the treadmill. I'm just doing a little test with this to see how long it takes to heat up on 220 from cold. I made my little adapter. We're not going to do a how-to on that. If you guys know an actual code legal way to do that without cutting the plug off, I'd love to see it. My suggestion would be to cut the plug off while you're in like a 620 plug and then get an adapter to go from 620 to 110. That way you're more legal than plugging in a 115, 110 volt plug to a 220 plug. Definitely not legal. So anyway, we're not going to get into that. I'm going to brew tomorrow, so I'm just doing a little test here. And then we're going to hook this guy up. And I don't know if it's going to reach all the way over here. We're going to do our mill our grains in true fashion. Of the way I do everything. I am 2 pounds over my grain bill. There's a max grain bill. So we have just over 18 pounds of grain going in to what Anvil says will max out at a 16 grain or 16 pound batch. So, well, I guess we'll find out tomorrow. We got some rice hulls going in with it. So it's just going to be a simple New England IPA. We'll start this guy up. Well, you got to turn your that's how long it's been since I've brewed this. I don't even know how to use the equipment anymore. Apparently, I had to actually push the button. So, I guess we're going to stop that until I can find something to set this on. Alright, this is sketchy, but we'll be back when that's done. Alright guys, we got our grains all ground up. We did have some collateral damage. Part of it was because I wasn't paying attention and the bucket was like overflowing. But I do need to come up with, I'm just going to use a bucket for this little thing. I'm going to have to come up with like a chute just to guide it into the bucket instead of letting it go willy-nilly into the big basket. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really, it's not too bad into that. But so what we got in here, if you give me a sec, I'll come back. Alright guys, so I looked it up, and if you guys don't have Beersmith, you got to get it. This is like the easiest thing in the world to do stuff on. So I have profiles that I made myself for my large system. The Anvil system's already in there. You just have to add it. Super easy. So anyways, we're going to do an IPA. See if that'll focus. It won't. Alright, it won't focus. So we're going to do an IPA. We're shooting for about 1.077 specific gravity. I have no idea if we'll be able to get there. We're already over our max grain bill. It's going to be about 38 IBUs. There's going to be no boil hops at all. It's going to be all just whirlpool hops. We got 13 pounds, 9 ounces of just regular 2-row. We got 1.6 ounces of flaked oats, 1.6 ounces of flaked barley, and a pound of carapils, plus a pound of, I'll measure out, I'm not sure how much is in this bag, probably close to a pound, of rice hulls. I just did the same grind I do for my big system on this, which is like, I don't even remember now. Well, this thing's set on -1. I think that's like 0.042 or 0.045. It's been a really long time since I brewed, so don't quote me on that at all. So anyway, we got our grains done. We're doing our final test on that. I sprayed some citrus surf in it, got it all cleaned up, and I just want to see how long it takes to heat up to mash. on 220. I'm gonna put hot water in it to mash, so it doesn't really matter, but just out of my own curiosity. So anyway, set it ran. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. We'll get mashed in. I'm just gonna follow the instructions from the Anvil thing. I think it's like 7.1 gallons of mash water. I'll probably go a little bit higher than that because I got a little, well, we'll see. We'll see what I can do. So we'll start, I guess we'll start there. We'll do the 7.1 and we'll see where the basket is in relation to the how many grains I'm putting in there, because it's probably a bit sketchy. Alright guys, so we got up to mash temp, or the like dough in temp. I set it at 162. Looks like it overshot a little bit. It's at 163, but from ground temperature water, which was like 56 today in Michigan, it took 46 minutes and 21 seconds for the alarm to go off. That's pretty respectable. Way better than 110. Alright guys, we're back here for a quick second. It's still not tomorrow. I went from 161 to boil.
While this device reconnects.
My Alexa's mad. It took 22 minutes to go from 162 or 161 to boil. Alright guys, we got our water added in. Came right out of the faucet, right where I needed it to be. So we're just following the instructions from the Anvil's manual. We're at 161. So we'll get some of these and we'll dough in a little bit. And alright guys, we're mashed in. That still says it's 160, but I'm guessing it's just because the water doesn't actually move from the bottom anywhere. Yeah, because we're way low on our mash. So let's start this circulation up and we'll see what happens. So we're going to put our dispersion plate in. And it says to wait like 10 minutes for the bed to settle. It's been a few, but we can wait a couple minutes. We did have a little bit of extra grain left. So, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm pretty much just going to hot steep these grains, and then I'm going to use that water as my sparge water at the end. I don't know how it's going to work. We're going to see. It's mostly just flaked stuff, so we'll see what happens when I pour it over the basket at the end, but there's no way that I could get the rest of those grains in there. 16.7, I probably got 17 pounds plus, I don't know how many pounds, there's probably 2 pounds of rice hulls in that bag. So that was pretty much, she was right full. So that was pretty much it. So this will be like mashing in a cooler, and then hopefully I can pour it in the bag at the, or the grain basket at the end. We'll use it as my whatever you call that water, sparge water. Jeez, oh Pete, sparge water, and we'll see how it goes. So we're gonna start this pump. I got this guy dialed back pretty far. Looks like it's gonna circulate still. Let's see what it's doing in there. Yep, it's coming out very slow. We're just gonna keep an eye on that. Make sure we don't suck the grain bed down or the water level down. I would hate to scorch an element on my first brew day with this thing. And I'm pretty good at scorching elements, so that's still coming out of there pretty fast. Oh, I got it pinched back about as far as you can pinch it back, so we'll be back here and I'll let you guys know how it's going. Alright guys, we're mashing. We got about a half hour left. It seems to be recirculating alright. For now, it was a little rough at the start, but it seems to be going alright now. So what I'm going to do now is screw it up. And we're going to shut the pump off quick. Pull our mash plate. It's not hot, even a little bit. And we're going to add 0.7 ounces of Cascade hops into the mash. And then we'll get our pump going again. And hopefully we didn't screw anything up. Hopefully it still circulates. So the reason I'm doing this is my buddy Jeff from Loaded Dice Brewing down in Troy sent me a link this morning that was from the Cosmic Punch, the Omega creators, and they talked about how adding mash hops using the Cosmic Punch really brings out like a good basically flavor and aroma from the tropical scents. So I don't know, they had a bunch of words I didn't understand in it, so I'm definitely not going to try to repeat it or explain it. Basically they just said it emphasizes all the characteristics you want from a New England IPA by using the mash hops. So we're going to give it a try. We'll see how it works out. I didn't add very much. Like I said, I was going to do 0.5, but I got 0.7 in when I did it. So, all right, we'll be back in a half hour when this is done, and we'll see how it goes. See you guys then. All right, guys, our little guy's been mashing for roughly 55 minutes. I just started ramping up for a mash out for no other reason than I'm looking for some stuff and I can't find it. I need to get another cross for this so that I can build the top that I usually put on it, but I cannot find another cross. I'm pretty sure I have enough to do this, so I'm going to keep looking for a couple minutes while this ramps up for a mash out, and then we'll be back. We'll pull the basket. We'll put our little bit of sparge water slash secondary mash in there, and then we'll start ramping towards boil. So we'll see you guys back here in a few minutes. All right, guys, we're gonna call it there. So the first thing we're gonna do is shut off our pump. I'll shut our valve just in case something funky happens. I did have a little thing on there just to slow the flow down a little bit more. It's still pretty, it rips pretty hard still with just the clamp on there. So we're just gonna set that over the side. Let me find some gloves. These are like, alright, these are like the crustiest gloves I've ever put on. So, I think you just lift it. Unset it like that. We'll take our little mash basket thing out. I probably should have lifted a little slower. You guys remember when I used to do the Colorado brewing system setups? I always lifted that one pretty slow. So you didn't stuff the mash bed down. I always felt like it worked better that way, but so, well, we'll let that drain down, and then we'll pour our things on there. So we can probably start going to boil now. So there we go, we're on our way up to boil. The grain bed's draining down. We're gonna want about, I'm gonna go with about six and a quarter maybe gallons in this thing prior to boil. I set it up for a 5.5 gallon finished batch, figuring we're gonna lose a little bit into the bottom of this, and then we're gonna lose a little bit into the bottom of the flex unit over there. So I'd like 5.5 finished gallons. We'll see what we get. Like I said, I've never used it. Today was probably not an ideal situation with the huge mash bill. It took a little bit to get it to circulate at first, but once it got going, it was fine. I still had it going pretty good even with the little clamp on there. Probably as hard as I circulate the big one. So we held 152 the whole time. I never checked the actual mash bed, but I checked the wort coming out, and it was right at it was like 151.8 or something like that. So it held pretty close to exactly where it was supposed to be. So we'll let this keep draining and see where we're at. Well, looks like we're good. So we'll slowly pour some of this in. This slop water. Obviously that was not an ideal situation with the slop water there. So we'll see what happens. That's definitely a first. It was my fault. All I did was scale down the recipe from the big one. Alright guys, we're letting this sparge drain out. We're only at about 5.25 gallons right now, so I did add a little bit more sparge water to my bucket. We'll just add that. It's probably going to cloud the wort up a little bit. Shouldn't be a big deal. We'll clean it up in the tank. As you guys know, I always add Clarity Firm to all my batches, so between that and just letting it cold crash, we'll knock most of the gunk out of it into the bottom. So as this drains, we're working our way up to boil. I'm going to pull the basket when we get like just over 6 gallons, 6.25-ish gallons, 6.5, something like that. And then we'll pull it, put this in, and then we'll work our way up to boil, and as soon as we get to boil, we'll be back. See you guys then. Alright guys, we pulled our basket. We're right about 6.5 gallons. I added a little anti-foam to it. just to keep it from boiling over. So mix that in a little bit. Actually, probably what I'll do for a second, while we're just coming up to, before we get to boil, we'll pull this guy off. Just for a hot second. We're getting close. We're at 187. Just open that up for a sec. We'll just circulate that through for a minute, and then we'll take a nice gravity sample. We'll see where we ended up at the end of the mash. If I can see, we're about 1.042, 1.04243, somewhere right in there. We'll let it cool down. We'll see where it ends up there. I have no idea what it was supposed to be at. I am going to try to keep track of how it goes and what the actual efficiency was of this batch, just so I can see. Then I'll compare it to a batch that's like supposed to end up like 5% with a smaller mash bill. Alright guys, we're at, it's saying 209, but it's got a little bit of a boil, a nice little rolling boil going. I turned the power down to 95%. We're still got a nice boil going, so we'll be back here, and I'm just going to let it boil for an hour. We'll be back in about 10 minutes left to stick the chiller coil in. I wasn't planning on using it, but I am going to use it today. Just, I feel like we're going to lose too much liquid if I send it through my big chiller. So I'm going to use it. I just got to figure out a way to rig something up so I can actually use it. So we'll be back in a minute for that. Alright guys, we're back. We had to go a little bit longer. I misread the markings just a little bit. We're down to just over 5.5 gallons, which is where I wanted to be. With the basket in, it was kind of hard to see. I was at about 6 3/4 gallons, so we boiled that out. It took about an hour and a half. No big deal. So we're going to put this guy in just to get to sanitize it. We'll probably lose our boil, so we'll crank that back up. To 100%. We'll wait till we get back to boil, and we'll do about 5-10 more minutes just to sanitize that, and then we'll start our crash. We'll sanitize that for about 5 to 10 minutes, then we'll start our crash down to 180 for our hops. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of Citra and 1.5 ounces of Mosaic. That'll go with 0.7 ounces of Cascades we put in the boil, or the mash, sorry. So we'll be back here in about 15 minutes. We'll see you guys then. Alright guys, we're good and sanitized. We're just going to reach over here, turn the cooling water on. Oh, we got a leaker. This is why you should check stuff before you go on video. Alright, that looks good. We're just going to crash it down to 180, which should only take a second. I did sanitize the pump. I ran it through at boil for a couple minutes. So we're already down to 193. I got the power set, the temp set for 180. We're just going to do a half-hour hop stand there. Quick sample from this. We're down to 175, which is fine. We'll just hop stand at 175. So this is still hot, but we're about 1.063. I was shooting for 1.077, but with that big with that big bat, or that big mash bill, man, my brain is not working today. With that big mash bill, it was probably just too much for this guy. The efficiency is obviously going to go down in like the brew in the bag style deals, where the bigger the mash bill you get, the less efficiency you're gonna get. It was the same way with my Colorado brewing setup. So, all right, we're gonna let this. Well, here we'll put the hops in. It's not gonna hop stand without hops. So I do not have a hop spider that fits in this. So I did mix this in the boil to sanitize it a little bit, but I don't have a hop spider that fits in this, so those guys are just going to go in there on their own. I'll just leave that sitting in there for now, and I'll stir it every 15 minutes or so, and we'll be back here in about a half hour when this is done. We'll see you guys then. Alright guys, we're back with it actually chilled this time, so pretty much re-sanitized the entire situation. So now we'll start the pump up. We did, so I'm not sure you guys can see that, but I did another whirlpool in there with the mash paddle. I re-sanitized that just to get it kind of set up. Let's see if that'll work a little better. So that's the color. It's a nice color. We'll see what it ends up. I'll do another gravity reading once we get towards the end. I'll use what's left in the hose to do a little gravity reading on it. So we're going to finish transferring this. It says 73, but I'm going to guess we're cooler than that because you have to just let it sit, and without doing a whirlpool while you're chilling it, the probe doesn't really read very well. So we're gonna let this go. We'll finish this up and we'll be back to pitch the yeast, and I'll tell you guys what the gravity ended up. All right guys, we're back for the oxygen yeast. So we're just gonna spray all this down. I did hook it up to the glycol system. We were sitting at about 68, close enough. So I did throw a little bit of clarity firm in. This is our yeast. It's that Omega what is it? Omega Cosmic Punch. There you go. So we'll see how it is. I've never seen anybody use it before. So we're right at 5.5 gallons, which is right where I wanted to be. So we'll get this back on. And then we're gonna do, the last thing we're gonna do, when we'll be done with the brew day, is maybe add some oxygen. We'll see if we're gonna add any or not. I'm gonna go, ooh. Oh yeah, it's adding some. I thought it was empty. So we're gonna let it oxygenate here for about 30 seconds. I did add a little clarity firm, I think I already said that, just off camera. So that's it for today. I'll move the camera back, we'll have a little talk about how the day went, and then we'll end this video. We'll see you guys back here in a second.